Hey there, how's it going today? It is me, Captain Energy, and today we're putting together a video here for a subscriber, B-Boy Mac 84, and he was interested in knowing how to get the new Akai MPC live to assign instruments across the pads so that you could play, like for example, like this, have a different instrument on each corner. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Actually, I'm going to show you how to do this exact one right here. And also, basically, that same technique minus one part of it will allow us to have samples or an instrument that will fade from instrument to instrument across the different corners as well. I'm going to show you how to do all that right now, and I'm also going to show you how to set up, if you've played with the sample kit that loads up, how to make a bass type sound like an 808 bass so that it has pitch shift when you wiggle your finger across the pad. All this comes down to is using the matrix. This matrix is super powerful that they've started putting in here. With that in mind, let's just get to work and I'll show you what we're doing. So let's start with the new pad here. Now what I've got going on first is I've got 4 samples in here that I made on the MPC, and you can do the same if you'd like to do it. I'll show you how right now. If I go over to main, if you have a plugin loaded up, any plugin you want, then just play a note and record that note into the arrangement here like that. I can tap the pencil and I can bounce that sound right here, bounce to sample, and that's how I got the samples real quick. You can use any samples you want, things you sampled with the microphone, things you sampled through the line-ins off a record, whatever you're using will work fine. So let's just assume you have 4 samples loaded up and you're ready to go, and you want to be able to assign those to one pad and play them in the corners. So you basically have 4 sounds on one pad. To do that, first, what we're going to do first is go to main, and then we're going to create a new track. We need a new drum kit to work with. You could do this with another drum track that you have already created, but I'm just going to assume you don't have one, and we'll make a brand new one. Boom, new drum plus new track, and it's a drum track. Now that we have that drum track created, what we need to do next is go in and assign samples. To do that, we're just going to hit edit, and that will bring us into, this is the sample editor where you basically line up your drums or set your drums up to be played on the MPC. It can be any samples you want. You can, normally it would just be one sample per pad. To do what we want to do, however, there's a slight difference in the way the MPC works. The way it used to work was that you just assign your sample here, and it would play. For example, if I go right in here, samples, and we bring in the first sample, we'll go to memory, and I've got several samples right here. The first 4 samples that show the bounce, cloud, these are the ones I just created for this. So I'll just grab one of these samples, grab the 4th one right now, and if I play it, it just plays that sound, and all is well if you just wanted that one sound to play. Now if I wanted to load the other sounds, what I would do is I want to load them into different layers. So we'll go layer 2 right here, and now my next sound, I'll load my 3rd sound. Next, layer 3, I'm going to load my 2nd sound, and layer 4, I'm going to load my 1st sound. It doesn't really matter what order they're loaded in. They're all just going to load in, but right now, they're just playing. Nothing's happening really. I have no real control over it. It's just going. So what I want to do is I want to go back to that main screen right here, and before we do anything else, we want to tap this velocity right here where it says right there, turn the data wheel here until it says crossfade. This is what we need to set for this to be set up to crossfade sounds. Now when you want to play them in the different corners like that I was showing you earlier, you don't want them to crossfade because you're not trying to get them to crossfade. You're trying to get them to basically be the whole corner, but I'll show you what we're going to do to get there. At first, let's go right here. So we got crossfade turned on. We got that on, and I'm going to change the one shot to note on. Okay. And the reason I'm doing that is because we don't want to play the whole thing. If we have it on one shot, it's going to play the entire sample, and we don't necessarily want that. We just want to play while we hold down the key. So we've got that set for the first part. Now there's several options here. Without getting into all that though, we just want to stick with A. This will just be the basic 4 sounds setup. That's what we want to know how to do here. So let's go in here. As I said, it's just playing one sound. It's not doing anything special right now at all. But if we go back in to this matrix is the key to making this work. It's just crazy because this does so much. First, let's start by tapping none right here. This first one says none, and we're just going to go in here. There we go. Had to get that to open. Double tap that. We're going to go to MPCe right down the bottom, and I want to go pad X. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing on the next one down. I'm going to go pad Y. MPCe, pad Y. Bam. The next thing we need to do is tell it what it's doing with pad Y and pad X. So we're going to tap the target, and I'm going to go to global. Inside of global, we've got these layer crossfades. For X, we want to hit layer crossfade X. For Y, we want to go back in again to this and hit layer crossfade Y. Seems pretty obvious, but now that we've done that, just doing that will give us this. We can crossfade between the sample, which is kind of cool in itself right there. We're already part of the way there as far as what we need to know how to do. We're not getting just the instrument we want to play in the corners. What we need to do is there's these things called shapers. Shapers will allow us to limit or control, kind of tighten up what happens with these pads. So if I tap this linear right here and we look down it, there are quantizes right at the bottom here. 0.25, 0.50, depending what you select will change the way it's quantized. 50 will give you half the button and half the button, half horizontally, and the other one will do half vertically. So we're going to do that. That will give us the 4 corners. But let's go right here. We'll hit 0.50. Right here we'll do it again, 0.50. And there we go. Now we've got our sounds playing individually in the corners. That was the first part of this question, was how to get that to happen. All right, that's pretty cool. So we're most of the way there. Now the next part was, how do we make one of these pads into like an instrument so that it can be played and, you know, shift pitches or whatever as you're sliding your finger up and down on it. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to create another drum. All right, let's go back over to edit here, the main part. Go to global. We're on the next pad. I'm going to take this one and we're going to turn this one to crossfade also. Okay. Now on this one, we're just going to load up one sample. Samples. Let's go to layer 1 and load that sample in again. This will probably look pretty good. So now let's take this and we're just going to turn on looping right here. Let's move the over here. Let's move the start over here. All right, there we go. Now let's go to amplification here. We're going to add just a little bit of release to that so we get Alright, let's turn the level up. Now we've got a pretty consistent sound. Alright, so next what we want to do is we want to go into the matrix again. Let's go down to the matrix right down here. Here's mod matrix. And this time what we're going to do is we're just going to go grab another one of these MPCe controls here, and I'll put just a Y in here. And what I want it to do is I'm going to just use adjust pitch on this, okay? And we can control the max, how far it will modify the pitch. But isn't that neat? We can do that. We can same thing we can use to do basically if we want to add a filter, we could do that. Let's add a filter real quick. MPCe. We're going to go pad Y, X. Sorry, I already did pad Y. And this one's going to go to the filter, and I'm going to put it to the filter cutoff. All right. Now, one thing is that we need to apply a filter to this, because right now there's no filter, so it's not going to do anything. To do that, we need to go over to amplification right here, and I'm going to tap this again, and it will take me to the filter. There's the filter. If you go one further, it also takes you into the pitch envelope. But let's go back to filter. Let's pick a filter here, and I'm going to go with one of the bandpass filters. Okay. All right. Let's go back over to the matrix here, and now we're going to actually make it so that this actually can control that. Let's just change this number here from 100. I'm going to take a little tweak and to get what we actually want to happen here. Isn't that crazy? Kind of spooky Halloween kind of sound type thing. Anyway, but that's the basic two configurations there. There's a bunch of ways to use this. A lot more ways to use this matrix than I thought there were. And I'm going to be experimenting a lot with it, so I think I'll probably do more videos on different ways to use this matrix. If this was helpful to you, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. Share with your friends. Hopefully it helps you out. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll be happy to try and assist you. All right, have an awesome day. Bye for now.